For most of your history, the sky had a ceiling. Not a metaphor. Not a religious idea you could hold at arm's length. A structural fact, as real to the people who built the pyramids as the stone under their hands. The sky was a flat sheet of beaten iron stretched wall to wall above the world, and you lived underneath it the way you'd live under any ceiling. Grateful it was there, terrified of what would happen if it wasn't. Above it, pressing down through eternity, was water. The none. The cosmic ocean, the void before creation, infinite and patient, waiting on the other side of the iron for the moment a seam gave way. That was the arrangement. The ceiling holds. You live. The ceiling cracks. Everything drowns. And the civilization that built it, the one that cut stone to tolerances a modern engineer would respect, that aligned massive structures to star positions calculated centuries in advance, believed this without question for 3,000 years, not because they were unsophisticated, because every piece of evidence available to a human being standing on the earth with bare eyes told them the same thing. The ground was flat, you could see it. The sky was up, and it stayed there. The sun crossed it in a daily arc. The stars wheeled overhead like something bolted to a surface being slowly rotated. Everything your body could collect confirmed the model. The ceiling was real. The water was pressing. The only question worth asking was how long the iron would hold. The Egyptians gave the ceiling a name. Nut, a goddess whose body arched across the world, bent backward, her fingertips at the western horizon, her toes at the east. She was not a symbol of the sky. She was the sky. Her body was the iron, and the stars you saw at night were the lights on her skin. They were not alone in this. Go into the oldest documents humanity ever produced and find the same architecture everywhere. The Hebrew word for the vault, overhead, rakeah, means beaten metal. Something hammered thin and stretched flat. Every civilization that looked up long enough to write down what they saw described the same structure. A ceiling, a lid, a solid surface with water above and people below, kept alive by the thickness of the iron between them and oblivion. This was not ignorance wearing the mask of belief. This was the most sustained, precise, technically demanding observation program in human history, run by people who staked their civilization's survival on getting the sky right. They tracked every star, 3,000 of them. They recorded when each one rose, when it set, which season it announced, which flood it predicted. The star Sopdet, the one you call Sirius, reappearing before dawn after 70 days of absence, meant the Nile flood was here. Not coming. Here. Today. They built temple corridors aligned so precisely to that moment that once a year, a single shaft of first light traveled the entire length of an inner hallway and landed on the face of a god inside. They were not looking at the sky for beauty. They were reading the most accurate survival instrument the world had ever given them. And they read it the way you read a clock you have staked your life on, without flinching, every night, for 3,000 years. And then 5 lights started lying. 5 points that didn't hold their position the way the other 3,000 did. They wandered. They slowed and sped up. On certain nights, they reversed direction entirely and moved backward across the ceiling, as if they had decided the rules didn't apply to them. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. The Greeks would eventually call them planetes. The wanderers. 5 exceptions in a system where exceptions were not supposed to exist. The priests recorded them, carefully, without explanation. Because there was no explanation that fit the model. The ceiling was iron. The stars were fixed to it. And yet 5 of them moved like something alive and deliberate and answerable to nothing. Then one night, the ceiling started coming apart. One burning line, then another, then a dozen, then the entire underside of the sky on fire. Streak after streak, tearing across the iron in white and green and orange, fast and silent and unstoppable. You know what that is. You've been told. Fragments of rock shed by ancient comets, burning through 60 miles of atmosphere at 40,000 miles an hour, vaporized by friction before they hit the ground. Your ancestors knew none of that. What they knew was that the ceiling was iron, the water was pressing, and lines of fire were opening in the surface overhead. The seams were giving. The drums started before anyone decided to start them. The rituals came from memory, passed down through generations for exactly this moment, because this had happened before and the people were still here, which meant something had worked, and now was not the time to improvise. They danced under the burning sky until dawn. When the last streak faded and the ceiling held, they wrote down every step of what they'd done, not because they were superstitious, because they were scientists. The method was right. Observe, record, repeat, survive. The model was wrong. That difference is the entire history of human knowledge, and most people never sit still long enough to feel how thin the line between them really is. But one person that night didn't dance. He walked to the water. He stood at the river's edge and watched a loaded grain boat moving south, slow in the current. He had watched boats his whole life. He watched this one differently. The hull disappeared first. Not the sail, not the mast, not the figure standing at the stern, still clearly visible against the burning sky. The bottom of the boat slipped below the horizon while the top was still there, while the person above it was still a distinct shape in the dark. He stood very still for a long time. On a flat surface, an object moving away shrinks evenly, all of it together, bottom and top vanishing at the same rate until the whole thing disappears at once. The whole had gone first. He went home. He picked up 2 sticks. He walked north for 2 hours and pushed one into the ground at noon when the sun was at its peak. He measured the shadow. He wrote the length down. He walked south for 2 hours and pushed the second stick in at noon. He measured that shadow. They were not the same. 2 identical sticks. The same sun. Different shadows. On a flat surface, that cannot happen. If the shadows differ, the surface between the sticks is curved. And if you calculate the degree of curve that produces exactly that shadow difference over exactly that distance, you get a number. The number is the radius of a sphere. He looked up at the sky. The same sky he had looked at every night of his life. The iron sheet with the cosmic ocean pressing against the outside. The thing the entire architecture of his civilization assumed without question. It wasn't there. It had never been there. What was up there was not a ceiling. It was a window. And the window didn't open onto water. It opened onto a dark so deep and permanent that the entire desert and all its vast emptiness would disappear inside it without leaving a mark. He tried to explain this to the tribe. They raised spears, not because they were fools, because the evidence they had, the flat ground, the overhead stars, the clockwork sun, everything their bodies told them about the world they woke up in every morning, pointed somewhere else entirely. They were working from the same observation post, with different tools, and arriving at the only conclusion those tools allowed. He was right. They were not wrong. Those are not the same thing. They are just where you are in the sequence. Because here's what the spear raisers, the dancing priests, and the astronomers logging 5 wandering lights they couldn't explain all share with every scientist who has ever lived and everyone who ever will. They were working the puzzle with what they had. They watched the sky with more sustained attention than you have given to anything in your life. They cut stone to alignments a modern engineer would study. They built calendars accurate enough to predict floods across centuries. They were wrong about the material the ceiling was made of, and right about almost everything it told them. And they did the most human thing possible with the gap between those 2 facts. They kept watching. That pull you feel toward a clear night sky. The way your eyes find it without deciding to. The way a full scatter of stars does something to you that you can't quite name. And don't really try to. That is not wonder you learned. That is 10,000 years of people for whom the sky was the most important thing in the world, still running in your blood. People who mapped it with sticks and shadows, who built temples to catch its light on a single morning once a year, who were wrong about what the ceiling was made of, and right about the only thing that mattered, that it was worth your full and undivided attention, worth the measuring, worth the recording, worth dancing under, even when you were wrong about what you were dancing for. The ceiling was real. Not the iron kind. Not the kind your ancestors feared. The kind you build the moment you stop looking past the edge of what you already know. The kind that holds until someone picks up 2 sticks, measures 2 shadows, and refuses to stop at the answer everyone around them already has. That ceiling, your ancestors cracked it, and the sky has been opening ever since.